Hi everyone, I'm Rick Beato. Today on Sounding Off, we have one of my all-time favorite guitarists and longtime friends, Marty Friedman. Coming up next. I just wanted to say before the interview begins, there's a sound problem with Marty's microphone that happens a few minutes into the interview. I didn't notice it at the time, and I did my best to fix it, but I think you'll be able to figure out what Marty's saying throughout it. So here's my interview. Welcome.
Welcome. Are we rocking this now?
Yeah, we're rocking it now.
Great to see you.
Great to see you too. Been far too long.
Far too long, man. It's really been a long time since we're actually in the same room. Well, we're not in the same room now, but it's been a real long time since we sat together and talked music. That's for sure.
Right at the end of Megadeth, basically, when you left.
Yeah, and
that's the last time.
And you might have a really good part in that because at the time I was really like branching out into learning other stuff, and you gave me a whole lot of very interesting tools to work with. I mean, I learned so much from us getting together and doing music, and you showed me so much things that really opened my mind to really what I needed to do to grow musically. I mean, obviously I had a career and everything before that, but like there were a lot of holes in my knowledge that you completely filled up and gave me like tools to really move on to get into even more interesting things and just to hear things in a better way and to hear chords in a more useful way. I mean, I always had a good ear for where intervals laid within chords and stuff, but there were a lot of chords themselves that I didn't know, and then you showed them all to me, and it all started to make sense, and really helped me in the future stuff that I've done since then, and I have to thank you for that.
I learned so much from you as well, Marty, and it was a really great time hanging together when we did. And it's unfortunate that you're on the other side of the world because it would be great to see you in person here, but this will have to do.
I'm hoping to learn a whole bunch of new stuff this time.
Marty, there's nothing for you to learn. Come on, man.
Hey, that's what I do.
So let's talk about your new record. I want to ask you about this new music that I've been listening to. And like I said, doing the first transcriptions here. Maybe it's not the first transcriptions. Maybe people have done transcriptions, but that's the only way that I know how to get ready to talk to you is like I actually have to sit down and dig through this.
I love it. I wish everybody was that considerate and attentive. So when they talk about the music, I mean, you can't really get any deeper than writing your own music to it, so I appreciate that.
Well, I wanted there are so many things going on in the tunes, but let's talk about Self-Pollution here. I'm going to play a little bit of it, and I want to talk about it. And the opening riff is super powerful. I'm going to play it for you here. Sinister sound, just the opening lo-fi riff, and then it comes in with the brutal stabs there. Tell me about that when you're writing that. Kind of describe how did you come up with the riff first, the intro riff?
Well, I had the overview of the whole song was kind of the main thing, where I wanted to start off with this real intense thing with lots of chaos, then go completely contrast with a big spacey section that builds up to a climax at the end of the song. So the structure was really the most important thing at first. So I had to have a strong riff that was almost like a theme to build on very intro. So like you said, it starts lo-fi like that, and then it just builds into chaos. But the lo-fi part, the riff that you're talking about, you make it sound a lot more complex than it probably is to me. I was just basically choosing notes that I felt had a kind of cool groove to it, and that part that's in fourths at the end of it is probably the thing that makes it stand out a little bit more from your typical heavy metal riff. I mean, to my ears, it's kind of a typical riff, and I kind of wanted it to be kind of typical because I knew the song was going to go through so many things that if you throw so much crazy information at everybody, no one is going to be able to latch onto it. So the riff itself, it's kind of a basic heavy metal riff, but like putting like fourths in it at the end of the tag is a little bit interesting. And but what makes it interesting is the way it morphs into the next part when it goes into those chromatic ensemble layers that come after it.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And then when it goes back into the main riff, it doesn't go back right in time on the 1, 2, 3, 4 in type of thing. It waits like a beat and a half and then hits you with it. So then you get this kind of like you're being attacked kind of feeling. The riff itself is really kind of a basic riff. It's the kind of riff that hopefully kids, when they hear it, they're going to want to figure it out and play it because it's not so incredibly difficult, but it sounds wicked. So like that's another thing. If you play a cool riff and it's too hard for people to play, a lot of my fans are guitar players. They're going to want to pick it up. I don't want them to have to give it up right away, you know. So the trick is that you have to craft something that people are going to want to play.
Yeah. Although some of this stuff is pretty difficult to play or impossible to play except for you. Okay, so you go through, so it has this really intense chromatic section that's layered, and then it breaks down. It does this bum 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 bum, and then it does this kind of six lick, and then into this E minor major 7.
So I'll tell you about that part. I mean, it's certainly a line cliche. The question is, why is such a cliche coming out as so intense? And the point is, where it happens in the song. The part before it is in a completely different time feeling, completely different rhythm. And it's going on at full speed and full pace, and then it totally takes you into a different direction on the rhythm. So you've already jarring the people somewhere else, so I don't want to like give them something too melodically weird at that point. I want to like jar them with the rhythm, but give them something that they can grasp onto. But then, if you really think about it, what's going on under this cliche is just insane. The line that is being played on bass and rhythm guitar. A single tone run. Really, it all fits in within the key, but it's a very chromatic, semi-unrelated to the top line thing. It just makes the whole thing sound like chaos, but there's this cliche, this line cliche. I'm going to use that term a lot. That kind of keeps you in the song, so it's not just a complete pile of garbage. And that's what I like about it. This section itself is very much influenced by Astor Piazzolla. It's kind of a Latin feel, but with an interpretation of heavy metal. It's distorted guitars, and I'm hitting the guitar super hard, and the drummer's playing really hard. So it's kind of like a hidden homage to Piazzolla in there, which he's like one of the most insane arrangers of music in the world. So I figured if I'm playing a heavy metal version of that, it can only be totally chaotic And so that's why that section comes out that way.
So then you have this kind of climbing diminished line. That builds up to the next section, the breakdown, where the mood changes. When you get to this next section, the spacey section here, the progression, do you think about things like this is great to solo over, or really melodic? How do you think about these things? A minor to E flat major, then D minor, then back to A minor. But then you go to F major, A major, G major, and then there's another. Then you start to modulate. Then you go up. Then you go to what is it? G minor, B diminished, C minor, B flat major. That, I mean, it's a complete key change here that happens again later on.
It's actually two sections, and the main
Yeah.
goal, the goal point, is I want to get to that C minor section that comes up. That's when I start playing long tones, and that's when the orchestration builds up. The last tour, every city smelled like pot. I don't know if that's a new legal thing, but everywhere I go, it's like every place I go smells like pot. So I'm thinking, I don't really do that stuff anymore, but when I was a kid, and I used to do that, kind of certain types of motifs in music really spoke to me a lot. So I figured everybody's stoned now, so why don't I speak to those people for a moment here before I get back into my dramatic thing. See what I'm saying? So like this A minor, E flat section, I mean, that can definitely lend to some strong melodies. I kind of hint at a strong melody, but I'm putting also like some kind of bluesy cliche licks in there. And those are a really good contrast to the rest of the music, which is kind of like super Marty-ish, right? It's got all the Marty stuff, the exotic things, the foreign sounding things. So if I put these like kind of like any guitar player in a bar can do kind of thing, stick it in there, it's going to give me a nice contrast. So when I get to the C minor thing, gives you the dramatic thing. And a kind of an aside, I really love to hear when my playing doesn't sound like me. So when you hear that the first like bluesy lick that I play, it sounds like maybe a David Gilmour type of thing.
That's what I was going to say. There's actually in a couple of the tunes there is a Pink Floyd-esque David Gilmour vibe, and I was wondering. I was going to ask you that. Was David Gilmour a person that you were really into growing up?
Not really at all. I completely respect his guitar playing, and I love the way people respond to his guitar playing. And of course, when I was a kid, I played those songs like everybody else did. And, So what I got out of that is, and I'm not really a big fan of it, so to speak. I don't think I could listen to more than 10 minutes of that spacey stuff. But in context, some of that stuff can just absolutely be beautiful, and I'm not averse to stealing that mood for a bar or two. So,
let me play a little bit of this here. I just love kind of this majestic vibe of this. After you enter into C minor, it just gets, it's really dark for a second, but then all of a sudden, once you hit that B flat chord, it just, everything opens up. Was that kind of the idea of it?
Exactly. I mean, I wish everybody could hear the music through your ear. And if you noticed, I'm not using any expensive chords in there. Expensive meaning chords that I don't know the names of. It's very pure and innocent. Like you said, there's probably very normal jazz turnarounds going on in all of this stuff. Almost like a Disney way of thinking. There's definitely not anything that's going to trip up any jazz professors out there.
You know, when I'm listening to it for the first time and I don't know where it's going to go, and that's what is so fresh about this. I hear the first lick and I'm like, okay, where's this going? And then all of a sudden when it opens up in the C minor, but then you wind it back around, you do this minor 2-5, you do D minor 7-5, G7. Then you go to E to turn it back around to A minor.
So this A minor, if you notice, is the same vibe as the earlier spacey sections, the A minor, E flat thing, but in a heightened reality, so to speak.
Okay, so there's something at the end of this tune that we talked about as far as the in your solo. Okay, I'm gonna play it here. When I heard that, I had to rewind it about 10 times. That one lick at 5:33, it's going between a G major triad and a D flat major triad. How could anyone ever play that? I knew what the lick was too, and I was like, that is impossible to play. Tell me about that.
This whole section, the solo in this section, was done with the aid of an effector called the Ocean Machine. And it has a feature on it that you can double speed or half speed a guitar part. And if you play it in time, I actually use the half speed thing too to like make things super heavy on the record. And it actually tracks really well. So what I wanted to do with this is I wanted to have a solo that was like so fast, of course, but if I'm going to use this pedal, it's got to be used to a purpose of something that I can't do naturally. Because of course I can play, what is that, sextuplets at whatever tempo that is. It's like,
well, Marty, you can play anything. You can play that no problem,
I couldn't play it at the speed that's there. I mean, that's the point of using this effector. So I have this effector that tracks well, and even at double speed, it sounds like pretty close to like really playing. So I'm like, I'm going to use this somewhere, and I'm going to get some effect out of it. Like, of course, I could play that fast in that section if I wanted to, but I couldn't play that content that fast.
Okay, I want to talk about a couple of these other songs here. White Worm, I want to talk about that. Once again, I transcribed it here. And you start out with this, and you're playing in these sextuplets. It keeps building and winding around. Tell me about how you came up with that lick.
Well, the whole point of this is to get to the payoff is when the band comes in with that super heavy riff, dun 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 dun. That's the payoff. So how do you get from point A to point B there? And I wanted to start off with a phrase, almost like self-pollution, something that kids are going to want to play. And actually, you know, since you transcribed this, I don't know if you plan to put it up. I think it would be great if you could put your transcriptions up with this interview so kids can actually play this stuff. That would be wonderful.
When the band comes in, dun 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 dun, in that section, so you're going A minor, and then you goes to F, and then F half diminished back to F, and it's those lines kind of wind around. I'm going to play that here once again when the band enters. How did you come up with those two sections that work together, the arpeggio part and then that? Was it like, oh, this goes great with that, or did you actually kind of put it all together somehow?
In this case, I believe I had the intro first. And again, I think with anything, really, you want to come up with something to grab somebody right away. And in this particular case, I think everybody's trying, or should be trying, or subliminally is trying to come up with something that people are going to want to play, like Smoke on the Water or Stairway to Heaven, or those iconic phrases. Of course, this is a little bit more complicated than those songs, but I think it's come to the point that we're kind of in the future now, and people are more challenging with those riffs that they want to play than they were when we were little kids. So people hear something that's a little bit more challenging, and it kind of is a stimulus for them to get excited about playing. And I know how important that is, that when you hear something, it's like, I feel like I can play that. Let me try it. That's really important.
Marty, let me ask you about your fans, for example. You have very sophisticated music. You've always had very sophisticated music and sophisticated playing, and your listeners are really sophisticated. And yet, I think your tastes are very different than...
Somehow I get lumped in with all of these intelligent musicians, and I'm really, as far as my taste and what I'm trying to do, is not really that. But as long as you like my music, I don't really care who you put me in with. But on one of the other songs, for example, For a Friend or Miracle, there's really not a whole lot of super deep concepts in it, and I think it gets my point across just as equally as it does in Self-Pollution. So there's a lot going on, and anybody who likes my music, regardless of their taste, is a good friend of mine.
When I'm listening to music, and I'm talking to somebody about their record, I don't usually go into detail like this. But since it's you, when you send me something and want me to check it out, I really check it out.
I know you know music. I feel music and I think I know it, but you know it for real. So when I hear your comments, it kind of really makes me learn something even more. It's because I work with a lot of people. Actually, right now I'm doing string arrangements of a lot of this stuff, including Self-Pollution. So, having it broken down in front of me really is a learning curve. And when I can talk to you about it, it also on a guitar as well as everything else. So that really, it really is a mind-altering experience having you go through my stuff like this.
Excellent, excellent. Marty, the man, I really, really appreciate you doing this.
Likewise, man. It's great talking to you, and really kind of makes me want to sit down with you and get your input on this stuff while I'm writing it, because I'm sure it would even go to these deeper levels that are incomprehensible. So I really hope to get into the same room with you with some instruments and just really see what we do.
Well, I hope that, last time that you were in Atlanta, I can't remember if I was sick or something. Something happened, and I was going to come out to the show on the last record, and I wasn't able to make it. Maybe one of my kids was sick or something like that, and I was really totally bummed out. But I will definitely see you on this tour for sure.
Well, we'll do it next time. I'm not in Atlanta on this run, but probably on the next run I will be. We've been doing this fun thing every night where I grab a person completely at random out of the audience to play. We have a guitar and a guitar rig set up for the guy. So I'm like, who wants to jam? Like everybody's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I try to pick like the most enthusiastic guy and bring him up on stage. And we're doing like this 2-chord vamp. Like anybody can sit in with it. And we just do it, and we have this like guitar trade-off thing, and it's like, it's different every night. And sometimes the guys are absolutely mind-blowing. Sometimes the guys probably picked up a guitar last week. I have no idea. Either way, it's fantastic fun. So if you were in the audience, I could have you come up and then
No way, Marty.
You would just so blow me off the stage that I'll be completely crazy. I would love to see that.
Marty, I can't play one of the licks off this new record. Not one lick I can't play up to tempo. Not even close.
We'll see if
Anyways, well, Marty, listen, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
thank you.
I'd like to thank Marty for being my guest today. And Marty's record is out and available on his website and all the usual places, and I highly recommend it. That's all for now. I'm Rick Beato. Thanks for watching.